Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, Fright fans. I'm Jaime and Fuego.
Robert Duell.
And we welcome you once again to The Horror Show. And this is another recent and very heralded Fright flick that we are going to be discussing. A little bit more on the dramatic side. None other than Tigers Are Not Afraid. It's been compared to, Pan's Labyrinth at times. But, I mean, really more so than anything else. It has vibes of stuff that I've seen, like, Narcos and, even Traffic and stuff like that, because, being a film of Mexican origin, dealing with the drug cartel, but also making things a little bit more fantastical. I'm actually stoked that I finally got around to watching this after all the buzz. How about you, man?
Same. I actually really dug the hell out of this movie. They did a really nice way with basically tying in the realism of what's actually going on in the streets of Mexico.
It's scary.
It is. It's
real scary.
It is terrifying and everything. And then, but also with a nice little overlay of like a fairy tale aspect. I thought that was beautifully done.
Yeah, and not as overt and just obvious, I guess, as what we got in Pan's Labyrinth. But this is much more grounded, I guess, with a little bit of the fantastical
Indeed.
here and there. But guys, as you know, we always do, a little bit of overall impressions and then segue into story, acting, score, effects, so on and so forth. And overall impressions, this was it was a movie that hit me in the feels, man. It made me it honestly
I had
kind
a couple
of upset
lumps.
me, man.
Yeah, I had a couple lumps and everything and big like, oh, I can't believe you did that. Like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it definitely goes for it. It doesn't hold anything back in just its portrayal of not only the impoverished and the ruthlessness of the drug cartel and the people that they prey on down there in Mexico, but also just the displaced children in this regard, and all the performances from the kids are great. I can't wait to talk about the talking or the acting in this, and just the very adult-esque just talking and speech of these kids. They're obviously hardened and matured, and they represented it very well. But yeah, all in all, this movie is worth the buzz, in my opinion.
Definitely watch this movie.
Yeah. I put it in my favorite horror of the year for a reason. It was in my top 10, 15, whatever we ended up doing. But yes, it definitely needed mention. And so, story, do you want to hit the story, or should I do it, or what do you think, man? I know you watched it a little bit after me, but we can just kind of double team this show.
Yeah, we'll just both hit on it and everything.
Yeah.
So basically the gist of it is a little girl's mother disappears, and then upon this she's left for days on her own, not knowing where her mother is. So she joins a gang of street kids and everything. I say gang loosely and everything just because it's a group of kids and whatnot.
And they initially don't like her at all.
Yeah. Basically, they're trying to push her away and everything because in their eyes, girls are bad luck. And after joining the group and everything, all these horrible events transpire, and it's just one chain of event after another, and it gets you on the edge of your seat the entire time. I was so engaged with these kids.
Same. Yeah, it was rad status in that regard. And I mean, really, it's unfortunate because we can't really spoil too much about what the supernatural aspect entails, but just think about all of the lives that have been lost based on the carelessness and that aforementioned ruthlessness of these different cartels down there. And you can imagine who you might be seeing ghosts of in this. People who have been caught in that proverbial crossfire, really,
and that was
without
so
really saying
cool.
too much more. Yeah, those are some of the best visual scenes that we saw.
Indeed.
And we'll get to that in the, effects and stuff like that. But, just story-wise, be reminded they are few and far between. This is a very just... in our world film showing real life horrors as opposed to really bringing that supernatural aspect significantly. But I find that stuff more unsettling in a lot of ways because it's a reminder of this stuff. It's not make believe.
No,
it's
this
really
is our
transpiring.
world. Yeah. But like I said, with that realism of the true world horrors on top of the fairy tale aspect, it was so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a double down in a lot of ways.
It definitely hit down the double for the horror and the feels.
Yeah, and these kids are basically, as we get into the second and then ultimately the third act, it's them trying to seek some sort of vengeance against the people who were really responsible for making them orphans and, taking their parents away in all of these, just hideous and sordid ways in various regards. And that's about the most that we can say. But, I mean, acting-wise, man, anytime you can get great performances out of children, I'm immensely impressed with your director, with, you know, whoever cast the film. I mean, this is a, you know, just combined effort from various just angles to make something this great, and obviously talent from kids too.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I was thinking about this the entire time through the movie. It's like how good these kids are, because they literally pulled you into the movie the entire time. Like between their performances, you at times like I almost felt like. You can almost, like, being cheesy, feeling their pain and their sorrow.
Yeah, I felt the emotion and the anger and the resentment and just the thirst for blood in a lot of ways against these people. Yeah, it's and
you're
really
you're rooting for the kids the entire time.
As you
really would.
Yeah. Oh. And yet the villains were also just the performances from all of them were just wily and vile and horrible, just scum of the earth, to quote a Rob Zombie song, man. And they just, they definitely embody this thoroughly. And I mean, in the hands of a bad director, bad casting agent and stuff like that, and also, you know, just lesser actors, this could have come off cheesy. It could have come off as just a little too heavy-handed and deliberate in trying to make you feel emotions and stuff like that. But I mean, they found that sweet little, you know, like you know, this porridge is just right sort of bit where, you know, everything just culminated together with all of the performances from both sides, the kids and the adults.
Yeah, they definitely didn't try to over dramatize it.
No,
which worked very well for it.
It could have come off as like sappy and cheesy and, you know, all of that, and like, oh, you're attempting to pull on my heartstrings deliberately.
Because like you were saying, like it is hard for kids to carry the entire movie unless you have a good casting director, writing, and everything like that.
And they're leading like 60-70% of the scenes in these films. In this film,
this movie is basically about the kids' story and their struggles.
Yeah,
and it's done beautifully.
Yeah, and it's filmed beautifully too, and on a low budget as well. I mean, if we're going to talk cinematography effects and just the whole look of the film, the nastiness of these slums that they're relegated to and trying to survive within. I mean, all the camera work was very smooth, very fluid. It felt claustrophobic also
at
too,
times,
with the way like all the alleys that they're hanging out in, and even like when they're hanging out on roofs and different things like that. Just the look of these portions of Mexico that we're seeing, man. I mean, you can see that there is like beauty just, you know, however far away, and yet they're just stuck in the muck, and it's especially sad.
Trying to get out, but yeah,
and it gets their plight across a whole lot more intensely too, I would honestly say, you know,
indeed,
from just the way it was shot and everything. So to anything as far as just the look of when we do get the supernatural involved, did you like it?
I thought it was done great effective? Because it wasn't too heavy-handed. Hey, again, it was basically, without going too much into it and everything, because you guys should really watch this movie. But
Shudder.
Yeah, Shudder. Plug.
Yeah.
No, it's basically when they do bring up that supernatural aspect, it's done tastefully without being, like I said, heavy-handed. But it pulls you into your lead character. Again, like I said, you feel her sadness and what she's trying to figure out, and along with all these other kids, because you're realizing what happened.
Yeah, and
like they're all tied together.
Oh, absolutely.
All these kids are all tied together.
They've all
know
been
it or not.
wronged by some of the same people, even if they're not aware of it. And yeah, some of these dreamlike sequences that we experience later on in the film are they're incredibly effective, even if they're not used to such a minimal degree where they feel like an afterthought, but they are kind of a secondary aspect to the storytelling. They're not the means to the end, so to speak. You know, it's still really,
and they're not overly grotesque and everything.
No, nothing like that. You know, but still, I mean, well lit, good makeup, and all that stuff. To see these, you know, these dead people. They're not undead. They're
because a lot of it still leaves you up with like using your imagination to see what they're trying to show you. Because some points they darken it up and everything, so you can only see little shadows and bits and pieces.
Yeah, which adds to ambiance and, you know, just building creepy spookiness.
Yeah, and that was done great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as far as sound design and score and stuff like that, it score-wise, it didn't necessarily like have a particular like movement or a theme that just really stuck with me. And if I recall correctly, there was actually a decent amount of scenes that, you know, were very sparse in, you know, the additional sounds, because they wanted to put you just like right there in the streets, in the alleys, in these just dilapidated places, and how it would really be. There wouldn't necessarily be some sort of, you know, score behind you if you were just like a kid running around in there. So it puts you really ground zero in a lot of ways. And yet, I mean, just patter of feet and just, all the, like, dogs barking in the distance, all that stuff that you would imagine from being in these areas of Mexico. It all felt extremely authentic because of it all was obviously filmed there too, and it just I don't know, it got its point across in every possible capacity, visual, sound wise, acting wise. I mean, I thought this flick was great.
No, I'm pretty much right there on you. There's not really anything much to add on to that.
No. Nice. Well, I guess we have covered the predominance of the bases here at least, and yes, once again, Shudder is your destination if you want to stream this film. I know it is also on like VOD and stuff like that, but I mean, for like $4.99 a month to kind of donate to curators of some of the coolest independent horror that we have floating around. Yes, once again, this is not a real plug. We just dig Shudder around here at the horror show. So I've been Jaime and Fuego, and make sure to jump on Patreon and give us some sort of information about stuff that you would like us to review or do commentaries on, all that other stuff. And yes, stoked to get the chance to talk about this with you, Sir Duell, with the newest addition to the channel here.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again.
Yes.
Robert Duell.
I've been Jaime and Fuego, and remember, until next time, Fright fans, stay scared. Wow.